Hello and welcome to Community Connection. I'm your host, Tracy Christensen. Utah has a rich and colorful history. The descendants of the pioneers that crossed the plains and settled this area can be found all over the world. And one organization has been focusing their attention on preserving the history and stories of the Beehive State's early days. With us today is Maureen Smith from the International Society of Daughters of Utah Pioneers. Welcome, Maureen. We're happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Tell us a little bit about your organization and its history.
Thank you. I'd love to. Daughters of Utah Pioneers has been around for well over 100 years. It was originally organized in 1901 by Annie Taylor Hyde, who was a daughter of John Taylor, who was at that time president of the LDS Church. And at that time, why they had just recently had their Jubilee, which was 50 years here in the Valley. And so it was a big celebration, and then it was ran for almost a month, for a couple of weeks. And the people were invited to bring artifacts and their stories from the first year that they were here in the Valley of 1847. And then the celebration was over, and everybody went home, but they didn't necessarily take all of their things with them. And so Salt Lake was left with these myriads of artifacts, one of them being the original wagon that Brigham Young came into the Valley in.
Wow.
And so what are we going to do with them? So a few years later, why Annie Taylor Hyde could see that as these pioneers were dying off, we were going to be losing that history that was so important and needed to be restored, needed to be maintained and recorded. And so she invited a few of her closest friends, about 40 of them, and presented her idea of an organization of women who would preserve these histories, photographs, and artifacts of these amazing pioneers. And so that's how it began. And then after she talked to them and told them what she wanted to do, then she invited them to go out into their extended communities and friends and start groups. And we call those groups camps. And so we've kind of patterned our organization terms after how the pioneers traveled west.
Oh, yeah.
So our local group is called a camp, and a group of those camps comprise a company, like a group of camps in the wagon train would be considered, a whole lot of them would be the company.
So how has that translated to what you do in your camps and companies today, as far as preserving the artifacts?
Well, we collect those things. The organization itself, we have our main museum and headquarters in Salt Lake on the hill by the Capitol building. And that's our main headquarters. But beyond that, we have 130 satellite museums throughout the state of Utah. Some of them are in Wyoming, Idaho, Arizona, Nevada. And so we have 130 satellite museums. Wow. And then we have marked these important events and places through the years also. So we have about 585 markers throughout the world. We've even gone over into Europe, where some of these pioneers came from, and set up markers there for the places that they started their journey to Zion. And then we've across the United States, of course, and then up into Canada. We have some organizations up in Canada. And so that's what makes us an international organization.
And you mentioned Brigham Young's wagon. Give us a little tidbit of what's another really neat artifact that people might not know they could see at either the Salt Lake Museum or another.
Oh, there are so many wonderful things. We have some of the original hand carts. We have a wagon from Johnston's Army. Now, you remember maybe you don't remember. There was what they called the Utah War. And Johnston's Army was trying to come into the state, and they were going to whip these Mormons into shape because they felt like they were being rebellious out here. I don't know what it mattered because they were so far away. But so Johnston's Army was coming in, and their wagon is a Conestoga wagon, which is different than the Pioneer wagon. It's put together differently. The Pioneer wagons, many of them, ended up living in that wagon after they got here as a temporary home until they built them a log house. So we have those kind of things. We have stagecoaches. We have the early trolley car from Salt Lake. We have the fire engine, first fire engine that was in Salt Lake, and it's been completely restored to its pristine condition. And then we have many of the clothing that the people wore, wonderful portraits and paintings of those early pioneers.
Just treasures.
Oh, absolute treasures. We have everything from, well, the wagons down to a person's toothbrush that they use, and everything in between.
In between. Well, and bless you for preserving all those and for allowing us to learn from them. And will you let us know your website so people can go on there?
The website is isdup.org. IS means International Society, Daughters of Utah Pioneers.
Excellent. And they can join, and they can donate, and they can learn more on that website.
Yes, they can.
Thank you so
on
much.
our website, we have the application for a lady to join. You do have to be a lady.
Okay.
And you do have to, there's, all of us in the organization do trace our heritage back to those pioneers.
Okay.
But we invite others to come and join with us that just enjoy the history.
Well, thank you so much for sharing a little bit of the history with us today.
You're so welcome. Thanks again.
In every corner of the state, Daughters of Utah Pioneers have chapters and museums that give us the opportunity to learn about our state's history. To find out more about events and organizations featured on Community Connection, please visit our website at kbyu11.org. Thanks for being with us, and we hope to see you next time.